Okay, so Jacob has a son, many sons. One of them is Joseph. Joseph was sent off. Do you remember? He was given into slavery, right? His brothers sold him to who? The Midian. There they are again. Those guys keep popping up, don't they? That's not nice. He was sold to the Midianites, Joseph was, and then the Midianites sold him to Egypt. So here Joseph is, he was lowered into the lowest of lows as far as humanity is concerned, and then he was raised to second most. I mean, if you're going to count God, third most powerful in Egypt. And he starts a family. And he has two notable sons. He has Manasseh, firstborn. And then he has Ephraim, secondborn. Okay? And Joseph and his father reunite. Joseph and Jacob reunite. They're all getting together. They're ready to go and take their spot in the promised land and everything. And Jacob is very old, very, very old, much like his dad was when he got the blessing, almost blind. And Jacob calls in Joseph and he says, "Hey, bring your boys in here. I want to bless them before I die." So Joseph gathers his boys, and they're small, and he brings them in, and Joseph puts his sons on his knees, and Jacob said, "Yeah, bring them here, bring them closer, bring them to me so I can touch them and bless them." And so he presents the boys at him, and Joseph bows his head in reverence and prayer, closes his eyes, and Jacob does this. This is what Jacob does. So when the boys are presented, Joseph presents Manasseh, the older, right hand. You're the son of the right hand. This is the blessing. This is the double portion. So he presents him right here. And then Ephraim is presented right here. And when he closes his eyes, this trickster, you know what he did? You know what Jacob did? He crossed his hands. He messed things up again. What is that guy doing? You think Joseph really maybe didn't remember or know, because it's been a long time. But so he blessed Ephraim with the double portion, and Manasseh with half. So just to begin with, they're a half tribe. They're a half blessed. You get the double, and then you get the normal. And they were a half tribe just to begin with, even though they were the firstborn. So right there, they are the lesser, starting out the gate. And then we go down from Manasseh to, if we go from Jacob to Gideon, we have 7 generations. And here Gideon is of a half tribe that later was divided in the blessings of the land. For whatever reason, I'm not sure. But they were divided. And then Gideon's clan, the Bezerites, were the smallest clan. And then he was the least of the smallest. So he has every reason to think, hey, I am the last guy in all of Israel that you would want to use, because literally I'm the least of Israel. You look at the single portions, the double portions, the great and the small, and I am of the 1% of the 1% down here. Why would you want to use me? And the Lord said to him, "But I will be with you, and you shall strike the Midianites as one man." And he said to him, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, then show me a sign. Show me a sign that it is you who speak with me. Please do not depart from here, and I will go and present you." He's going to go get him some food. He's going to bake him a feast, basically. So he bakes him this feast, and then the angel of the Lord basically reveals himself in a moment, and he takes his spear that he had, and he touches just the tip of the spear onto the food that he had presented on the rock with broth on it, kind of like Elijah's offering that we had a few Sundays ago. He poured the water on it, but he poured broth all over this meat. And the angel of the Lord touched it with the tip of the spear, and the flame consumed it, and it was given to the Lord as an offering. And then, Gideon's mind was blown up. He couldn't believe it. He's like, oh, my God. And, the guy disappeared, pulled a Batman on him and just disappeared out of thin air. And he's like, that must have been the angel of the Lord. Oh, my goodness. And so the Lord, I'm getting ahead a little bit. So first off, this hard way that's coming to Gideon in an already tough situation, he met with the Lord first. The Lord came to him, met with him, chose him, called him. Then from there, he followed the Lord's instruction, which I'm not going to read. It's just a long story. He went and he tore down the Baal, the altar to Baal and the Asherah pole. Okay, got rid of the old gods, these distractions and snares to the Israel. It's what put Israel in this position to begin with. Okay, and then after that, he met with the Lord again, and he received instruction for what I call his ministry of war that he was about to set on. And if you go back to the story, some of you may remember the story. There were several thousand of willing men to fight at that time. Manasseh, even though it was so divided, actually populated very quickly. They had a lot of people. And if you look at their land allotments, which I had a map, first of all, maps, I'm not going to get on a sidetrack here, but maps, when you go back that far, they're all different. But they had quite a big swath of land that was divided by the Jordan. The Manasseh had land on both sides of the Jordan, okay? And we're on the east side, way up north, as far as the land of Manasseh is considered. And here Gideon is about to traverse that entire area. And this is a big deal, a very big deal. And the Lord whittles his men down, much like he did with Joshua. He whittles it down to 300. And not one of those 300 die, not even one. And they came against more than 135,000, but the exact number we don't know. But we do know 120,000 of those men that came against Israel died. They fell by the sword of Gideon and his 300 men. That's a lot of work. 120,000. That's a great feat. What the Lord did with this meager man, this man of no renown in any way, shape, or form. Physically, his heritage, none of that stuff. In order to do any of that, he had to be able to come out of that cave. He had to be able to come out of that hiding, okay? The Lord wasn't going to be able to use him if he was just going to stay in there and keep using that as a crutch, as a stronghold. We do know strongholds can be a good thing if they are the Lord. If they're anything else, if we are running to anything else for safety other than the Lord, it's a stronghold, and it's not healthy. So, to carry on in Judges here quickly, Gideon goes through his campaign here and is successful. He runs into a few snags with his own people, his brother Ephraim, I'll say Manasseh's brother Ephraim. And Gideon asks them for and not even necessarily, he did ask them for help, which they did not give. But he asked them for food. Hey, can you give us some food? Can you spare some water and some bread as we go through your land chasing these Midianites? God has given them into our hands. We just got to go get them. And Ephraim basically says, hey, I don't see anybody in your hands right now. So if God has given you this, why don't you have them? And this attitude is everywhere, and it's in here sometimes too. If God has promised me this, why don't I have it? Ooh, that's a whole nother Sunday. But Gideon, very upset, didn't have time for it, so they ran through regardless, exhausted. And they pursued the rest of the Midianites. They pursued the two kings or chiefs that were left, and they executed them as quickly as possible. They wanted to get back home to their land. So they get back home, and the men of Israel, not of Manasseh, but of all of Israel, said to Gideon, I'm going back into Judges 8 and 22. The men of Israel said to Gideon, rule over us, you and your son and your grandson also, for you have saved us from the hand of Midian. See their attitude? In the Bible, I don't want to just say the men of Israel or the Hebrews or whatever, but it is so common thread to see man, in period, want to build an altar or a monument to any moment, to any celebrity, champion, angel that appears of the Lord, and not God himself. It's crazy. It's like, how have you done this? Pastor, you're the greatest ever. Let me build you something to honor you. You know, the intentions are good. I get it. The intentions, that's fine. But we have to, he gets our highest praise. Our firsts go to him. Our highest goes to him. Yeah? And we can't forget that, because time and time again, that's what happens with Israel. Okay? They forget. So anyway, they say, please, you, Gideon, have saved us from the hand of Midian. Gideon said to them, I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you. And Gideon made an ephod. So it's a grand departure that happens here. Something happened in the mind and the heart of Gideon. Yes, this is a great story of him overcoming and coming out of the cave. But at some point, Gideon decided to go back into it. This story of Gideon doesn't end very well. And if we're going to read the Bible, we have to read it from start to finish, don't we? We have to. That's how we learn. That's how we can avoid the hard way. Ephod is what? Do we remember what an ephod is? It's a priest. It's a priestly garment. It's a very thin sheer material that the priest would put on, basically going in vulnerable and naked before the Lord, because he sees all anyway. And it was symbolic, but is also directed by God to be that. That's what he wanted, so that's what they did. And he created an ephod like this. So whether Gideon had enough war and he was just sick of his own people so much that he wanted to retire. I'm done. I'm done with Ephraim and all these people not believing me that I was from the Lord, that I was sent by the Lord. Why else would I do this? There's so many questions that would come into your head day to day